All right, let's get cracking. Awesome. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us in our webinar today. I'm really excited to host this this session. My name is David Bingham. I lead our security sales team in the southern region of Australia. Today, I'm joined by Aaron Bailey, who's the CISO for the Missing Link. We've got Peter. We've got Peter Bowsman, who is the CTO from Airlock Digital. And the main man himself, we've got Alex Duffy, who is the Cyber Risk and Resilience Manager for SA Power Networks. Thanks very much for joining us today, gents. Just to, excellent. Look, just to set a bit of agenda and I guess how the talk is going to unfold today, we're just going to chat to Alex for 5 or 10 minutes about the actual initiative that took them on the transformation journey, and then we're going to unpack how the technology platform of Airlock Digital and the partnership with the Missing Link allowed SA Power Networks to prevent threats before they start. So yeah, again, nice to see you, Alex. It's been a while since I saw you face to face, so glad to see you looking as youthful as ever. Look, just to get the conversation started, love to just hear a little bit about, I guess, where you did or where the requirement for implementing an application control or application allow listing solution was driven from. And I guess, and we'll take the conversation from there.
Sure. So there was actually 3 elements that really fed into why we needed an app control product. The first one was with our sister company trying to get Defence Industry Security Program compliance, which is to get level 1, you need the ASD top 4, the essential A, and one of them is the application control. The other one is our Australian Energy Sector Cybersecurity Framework compliance that we do across the rest of the organisation. And lastly, it was about mitigating risk, because we know application control is one of the most effective risk mitigations when we talk about environmental compromise. Not being able to execute any untrusted software, etc., really helped us in like mitigating those alerts and reducing all that complexity. But yeah, the original start point was really looking at that compliance for our sister company. That's what kicked off the whole engagement with Airlock and the Missing Link, and yeah, got us to get to know each other, David.
It's interesting. You talked about DISP compliance. Was that kind of driven as a a business opportunity kind of angle, or where did that kind of transpire from?
Yeah, so our sister company is a non-regulated entity, so they can bid on projects that go on around Australia, and some of them are defence-related contracts. So yeah, really it's about opening up that pipeline into the defence industry, not have to go through third parties, or just how can we do more within the community. So
it's really
that was one of the big ones.
It's really interesting to hear, an actual opportunity tied to risk reduction. I think that in the cybersecurity industry, risk is just seen as a cost center, and so to be able to tie that, back to actually, revenue generation in some area as well is quite interesting. I'm interested just really quickly to hear, Aaron, have you seen that type of strategy successfully implemented anywhere else?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I echo your comments about quite often cybersecurity can be seen as a cost center, risk reduction, kind of an insurance policy of sorts. But really, same for us as for SA Power Networks. Many companies can gain new clients, customers, or revenue streams by achieving various compliance or certifications. So if we just take ourselves here at the Missing Link as one example, we achieved CREST certification back in 2016. As our financial customers were asking for this for red team or penetration testing services to ensure quality and delivery of what we did. We later achieved ISO 27001 ourselves in 2021, and then uplifted this to the 2022 version of the standard, in part due to the actual customer demand for this when we were responding to RFPs, tenders, or cybersecurity requirements as a trusted supplier. We later gained authority as a CVE numbering authority in 2022 to showcase the talent and depth of our red team of consultants in being able to find dozens of zero-day vulnerabilities during client engagement and our commitment to help the entire cybersecurity community, as Alex said before as well. And we also gained our own DISP accreditation in 2023 for the exact same reason, to open up new markets into federal government and defence as well.
Yeah.
So while it can be seen as an overhead and a burden, it can also open up opportunities to new markets and revenue streams. And I think this should actually be considered as part of any business case for any compliance or cyber project uplift.
I think that's a really important point. It's to actually be able to engage with your business and understand how, if we do tighten this, it's gonna open new opportunities into new markets. And I think that a lot of younger or less experienced CISOs and business leaders can sometimes struggle to make that connection. And the essential 8 controls, Alex, you talked about the essential 8 or the top 4 of those controls. They get a bit of a bad rap generally, because they can be quite challenging to implement. Can you just talk to us a little bit about I guess how you landed on Airlock, and I guess and how that kind of translates into operational capability as well?
Sure. So we meet the other essential 8 requirements. We're a pretty mature business. We've been doing it for quite a while, but one of the things that we never got quite across the line was the application control. So it was fantastic when this opportunity came up as well. So we jumped out, started doing an RFI and went out to a number of companies to get that feedback on how they can support us in our application control journey. And really what came back as the most effective and most prudent option was Airlock Digital. The ease of use of the platform, the ease of deployment, etc., was really just next to none for us. So that was really fantastic. And then when we talk operational, we've seen a significant decrease in the amount of unwanted, untrusted software executing our environment. We are actively now monitoring these alerts. It's brought into our same environment, and it's also forcing us to go through our software procurement process properly. People can't just buy stuff on their credit cards anymore and install it. We actually now involved in the loop. So security is now in the loop to assess software to make sure it's safe for installation, etc. So it's been a really great risk reduction for us.
Yeah, that must make your heart sing, Pete, hearing customers say that a platform is just the easiest thing to use ever. How important is it to Airlock around that customer experience, and I guess how much time does your team spend on simplifying that part of the operation?
Yeah, a lot of time actually, but it is probably down to the fact that we originally, wanted to focus specifically on application control as our first class feature in the product. And so we saw that the nature of the problem demands a dedicated and focused approach. And it's not necessarily just a technology, I guess, issue, if you like, or technology problem, but it's also a process problem. And when we think about how we're building out the product inside the organization, that's really what we think about, is how we get the process and technology right, not just the technology piece. I think a lot of people traditionally have had difficulty implementing application control because they've looked at a traditional approach, which has been too resource intensive, technically challenging, and that's really caused a negative business impact and end user friction. And that's why Airlock was really created, was to sort of resolve those types of issues and make that process simpler and easier. Yeah. Alex touched on a couple of those items, easy to use, easy to deploy, but we've also really focused on our workflows. So our workflows are sort of tried and tested in the field, and there's a simple management interface and repeatable workflows that really help with that that adoption as well.
Yeah, no, it's certainly from a simplifying that workflow and process. And you talked about the actual the process, so it's not just a technology, there are processes that are involved. I guess, Alex, can you talk a little bit through the way that working with the missing link and Airlock through this engagement? Just give a little bit of highlight as to where where the missing link potentially added value there for you.
Sure. So to deploy Airlock over the entire organization has been done in about 3 tranches or 3 phases. So the first phase is where we engage the missing link, and they were actually incredibly integral in getting that kicked off the ground, having that proper support, and working with us through some of their knowledge in the past to help us fix some of our own processes. Some of the key ones being the simple questions of, okay, cool, we've got app control installed. How do we patch? Because you're now hash based. So working through with your prior experience actually really helped us go through that process, create documentation, knowledge articles, etc. And it was actually so efficient that through to, I mean, much probably your dismay, through tranche 2, we could actually do it ourselves as well, because that knowledge and that experience and that documentation was easily able to be brought over. And so when we deployed to another 3,000 endpoints, it was a pretty seamless experience.
Yeah, I mean that's the objective of any deployment, right? Is that it's picked up and adopted internally, and the teams actually find it easier to use. Aaron, can you shed any light on, I guess, from our perspective, what we thought was, what contributed to that success?
Well, I think it was alluded to earlier, but I think Alex tying things back in terms of the business case of the program and project in general towards an uplift for compliance, yes, but also as the opportunity and the additional routes to market was certainly one critical success factor. I'd be remiss if I didn't give his team some kudos though as well. There was certainly a member of the team from SA Power who truly understood the desktop environment across the business. So someone from desktop support who understood things like software deployment and versioning and patching, you heard Alex mention before as well. I think understanding the software asset inventory is really key, and many companies do struggle with this. We want to provide some level of freedom and choice for users, and yet complexity is the enemy of security. So we want to do this in a controlled manner. I mean, why do you need, for example, to support all possible browsers on company systems when you could support only 2, as one example? When looking at application control and the most granular level, as Alex said, being MD5 hashes of files and executables, then multiple versions of the same single browser like Chrome can actually look like multiple applications. And this can create a burden in support and operations. So if you deploy in monitor mode first, it allows you to actually better understand your software asset inventory, and then to have some of those tough conversations, make some business decisions with stakeholder engagement to reduce that footprint to an approved list of company apps and versions. This reduces the policy overhead in the app control solution, and it also reduces effort in patching and other operational teams as well. And I'm sure Peter will talk a little bit more about how the platform works, but it's not all about MD5 hashes at that level of granularity. You can use things like trusted sources and trusted publishers and things like that to actually look at a more funnel approach of how you go about trusting those applications in general beyond just that granular level of the MD5 as well.
Certainly the patching process is one thing that I've seen many organizations get caught out with in the past as well. You've taken I guess an extremely secure approach to patching, but then anytime you patch anything, it essentially presents as a new application and nothing works. So it's it's okay to take that approach, but your patching processes need to be extremely robust and well tested before you push those patches into production. Hey, can you just talk us through a little bit more about, I guess, Airlock's philosophy? I guess some of the features and tool sets that are really important to your journey and the way that you guys approach the Allow Listing Challenge.
Yeah, sure, David. And I think it was great to hear from Aaron and Alex talking a little bit about the process before and the process that has been followed to implement Airlock inside SA Power, because it's so important to get those approved applications right, and understanding that at the beginning, and the audit mode is definitely a great way of being able to gather that software inventory, just like Aaron said before. So that was really good to hear. And then obviously the maximum benefit is actually enabling enforcement so that an allow list actually does what it says it does what it says on the tin, basically. Allow listing, obviously a first-class feature, like I mentioned before. So that's the deny by default, permit known good security model, basically a proactive, preventative security model. But we also have some other features as well, which you kind of touched on briefly there before. But we have a block listing function. We have browser extensions that we can also manage as well. So block listing features, properly configured, are a really good effective security control against things like living off the land attacks. If you're familiar with the lol bins type of attacking, that is a good way of, I guess, preventing that lol bin attack vector. So if you have, say, allow listing and block listing as a combination in the environment, it's very effective at minimizing both execution of malicious code and also lateral movement, etc., using common tools and utilities. So that's a really good feature that we've been working on. And we've got a whole product roadmap, and that's actually on our website as well, talking about some of the features that we're bringing into the future as well. And certainly, I think it's okay to talk about here, but we have a new product release coming up very soon, which is really going to improve the UI that has been some feedback we have received about the UI and how we can improve that and polish that up. We've had some great work inside the organization to improve that as well, and that's coming very soon as well. But primary features when you think about the product itself, allow listing, block listing as a feature as well.
I think one of the beauties of the Airlock platform, for those that have seen it, is the simplicity in which it kind of allows you to focus on the bits that, you know, the delta, right? Because once the list is built, it's you know, you're in enforcement mode, but people are always going to try and run new products. So giving the you know, the analysts or the engineers or the desktop support teams that are going to be monitoring us on a daily basis, a clear visibility of what's changed in the environment is also a really nice feature. And obviously, allow listing or whitelisting or application control gets a pretty bad rap in general because of how complex it can be. I guess, what are some of the common areas that you know, the competitors or the traditional tools that customers may already be trying to use? Where are those? What's the delta between what exists in those platforms and I guess how Airlock kind of address the challenge?
I think Airlock itself, maybe a good place to start answering that question is, Airlock itself was born out of work that our founder, David Cottingham, did in Australian government. So he very much focused on the right features and focused on the right teams to be able to use the product. And that then meant that I suppose the pathway, I suppose, has maybe been a little bit different to maybe other products that you see in the market. And the other products that you see in the market might be doing a number of different things, and then they have added on application control as a secondary feature. Like I said before, this is what we do. It's our core product, and not an add-on to a bunch of other service offerings. And that has meant that we have dedicated focus on this particular solution. And I think that is a differentiator between us and other products in the market. I think, so I mentioned before the workflow process, that's definitely a differentiator. And there's an exception process that we have as well. Exception handling is quite a nice feature inside the product as well, and that's a differentiator compared to other products in this space. And then probably at a technical level, most vendors think about application control in terms of applications or access, but not files execution. And so, I mean, we know attackers only need one file to further their objectives, if you like. We think in files. So we block by default the execution of all files that haven't been seen before. and we only allow files that are trusted by the organization to run. And I think that's a key differentiator between us and other products that we compete with.
Yeah, I think as a reseller, it's nice to see a pure play vendor like Airlock who really do kind of stick to their mission objective and make sure they execute on that well. And I mean, Alex, can you share? I know that you did evaluate the market at the time that you procured Airlock. I mean, how did you see the I guess other vendors kind of not necessarily confusing, but bringing kind of different stories to the market, and what made you decide to go down the Airlock path?
Yeah, as you sort of mentioned before, the fact that they have the competitors, they focus on multiple aspects. It's not just on the app control. So that diluted that for us. So why at the time, we were also potentially looking at a PM solution. Their Airlock itself was their application control in those products was just borderline non-functional, or just not as well developed as what we were looking for and what we got out of Airlock. It would have been a lot harder, a lot longer. We would have had to have configured the PAM first before we could configure the application control. There was a number of elements that was associated with it that just made it a non-viable option. So again, that's just sort of why we went for the dedicated option.
Nice, good to know. Obviously, application control is part of a defense in depth strategy, Peter. And I guess how does or what are the other integrations that Airlock have that really operationalize the control?
Probably in terms of integrations, probably the first one I would talk about is how we have native integrations within Airlock to enable transmission of log data to your centralized log management solution. So we support a whole lot of formats, CEF, GELF, JSON, syslog. If you want to achieve ML2, maturity level 2 in the Essential 8, and Alex talked about sort of some of those objectives under DISP, it specifically directs you to ensure application control events are centrally logged. So obviously having that as an integration is key for us as a product, and obviously helps your security operations teams respond. We have an integration with CrowdStrike as well, and that's really, I would say, a better together story. So that's really combining that best of breed preventative security controls and detective security controls as well. And we have technical integration. We're on the CrowdStrike marketplace, and we continue to work with CrowdStrike on future integrations as well. Other integrations in the product, we have VirusTotal as an integrated part of our product as well, that provides fire level threat intelligence for us as well as a key part of the product.
Yeah, definitely. When day-to-day operations and I guess the management of a control like this is either a shared responsibility or it needs to be managed by multiple people. So having that confidence of what you're allowing to run in your environment, and is accessible and usable by different levels of seniority is obviously really, really important as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, just going back to something you mentioned earlier as well, Peter, and I'm interested to see whether Aaron's got any opinions on this as well. Exception handling, we've talked about, right? Environments change, and the business isn't necessarily entirely in control of the way that those organizations change. Can you just talk a little bit more about that OTP feature and I guess how that helps businesses to maintain an effective security posture without necessarily compromising their ability to adapt in real time?
It's a good call out, David. So we actually have a couple of different ways that we can implement exception handling. A classic use case, though, I always like to think of is the developers inside an organization is a classic use case. Sometimes devs need a lot more access to a lot more tools at a specific time when they're building out a particular solution, application, or system. And the process we have in place is designed to essentially, yes, it could be an OTP prompt, and provide that prompt for a specific time window to run a particular tool that, say, a dev needs to run to get a particular outcome. But there's a whole process that we can put in place in terms of approval and other elements as well, depending on how you want to implement that. And ultimately, it just helps reduce end user friction by having this exception handling process. It's been very well received with our customers.
Is that a feature, Alex, that your team are using regularly, or?
Yeah, so in the early days of the deployment, before we really solidified our software approval process, it was quite heavily used. You call up the service desk and get it all done. Now we see it barely used, but it's still a very valuable feature. And it helps those immediate deployment issues that you might have going into something. I need to deploy it now, and we'll deal with the approvals later. Massively helped that kind of process. And with us, we took it as an approach of not every single time you get an OTP, you need to go get security approval, etc. You raise a request with service desk, they give you the OTP, and then we'll review later just to do what it's meant to, get you working as fast as possible, and we can close up the gaps later. And then we also got the block list anyway to help protect us regardless of OTPs being ran or not.
Known badge, yeah. Aaron, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think part of the power of this is a positive security model. You don't want to lose sight of that, of obviously, rather than whack-a-moling all the bad things that are flying around and trying to keep up with that endless list of constantly moving things that are, as soon as you close with a blacklist, they find a way around it. So you want to maintain that. Obviously, we're talking about ease of management, ease of use, ease of rollout. Part of the reason I think many companies have such a struggle implementing application control is the users, right? Is the users, or the devs, or the admins. And I think it's important to note there is a link between applications and privilege, right? Applications can run in user mode. They can require admin privileges, sometimes not necessarily because they need it. Sometimes it's a poorly written application that just says it needs admin privileges because no one actually wrote the app properly. So being able to provide people with coaching, with guidance, with warnings, pop-ups, but also that ability to raise a ticket, either do the OTP, let's call it a break glass procedure themselves to actually get through it. You still have auditing, you still have visibility, you still have traceability of everything that's happened and who asked for it and why, or whether that's let's call it a dual control scenario where they're requesting it, someone else is reviewing it and approving it. I think it's a really important feature, but it shouldn't be used as a crutch to just empower the users to always just auto approve their own OTP for the sake of things to get around things. Otherwise, you're shifting some of the advantages that you gain with allow listing or application control or whitelisting by reducing the noise for the SOC or the security operations to then just someone else having to monitor all of those OTP exceptions that the users have been allowed to self-help and break glass around the edges, let's say. But it certainly helps in the early stages of pilot deployment and certain user groups to show them that we as the cyber team are not the no police. We are this is how you do it better police, right? So guide and direct versus just be the traffic cop stopping everything and getting in people's way that causes that backlash of, well, this thing's getting in my way of doing my job.
Yeah, I think that's a really important lesson for, when you're comparing other controls, is just that ability to allow people a workaround that doesn't compromise your overall security posture in the long run, but allows you to operate in in that agile kind of manner and not lose complete agility. Just kind of bringing it back to, so while you've got the mic, Aaron, I'd love to just get your thoughts on, I guess, our partnership with Airlock and what the, how you think our dealings with them helped Alex in the background, things that he's potentially not as privy to.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think it was mentioned before, I do have a soft spot for sovereign capability and sovereign built businesses. So that's definitely one key factor for us. I think we really were grateful, I guess, to be nominated as one of the most important partners for Airlock recently as well. Certainly the way that we look at things like project delivery. I mean, we do the bulk of our projects as fixed price outcomes rather than time and materials, etc. We have gone so far as to create a quick start package or capability around Airlock as well, initially aimed at the small to medium business size of customer or company, but it can also be a pilot deployment within a larger organization as well. So I think, the difference between tick box compliance, let's say, and true risk reduction comes from things like capturing requirements and use cases across multiple stakeholders, detailed design for in-depth configuration and integrations, deviating from the default. You don't want to just have a product and click next and install it with all the defaults. You want to move towards best practice where possible. So we do things like those capturing of requirements, detailed designs, test plans to make sure it works as intended. And specifically with SA Power, as Alex alluded to before, we did it so well, they didn't need us for phase 2 and 3. So the importance of that pilot group as well is quite important, because you can actually deploy it in monitor mode. You try to get a cross section of different user groups from different parts of the business, but it is a smaller group of, let's say, more tolerant users that know that they're part of a journey, and therefore things might be tuned as you go, and you actually switch from audit to enforce, to then give you more confidence in your change control to actually deploy it to the wider group as well. There's certainly a couple of different paths and ways that clients work with us, depending on size and sector. Some clients ask us to do a health check on something that's already built. Some ask us to design and deploy it from the outset. Some ask us to manage it operationally as well. Others ask us to train and guide with certified engineers their own people, so that they can take on an initial deployment of 500 endpoints, for example, and expand that to 3,000, 5,000 and beyond, and or train their teams to manage it themselves. So we really do try to add those, give those choices, give those options to clients as much as we can. We use things like SABSA and TOGAF that we align to for architectural frameworks. We use things like Prince2 and PMBOK as our project management methodology to track and report on the project. And we've completed quite a lot of successful cyber projects across clients from every sector in the last decade, to the tune of like more than $100 million in project services revenue across 2,000 plus projects with more than 600 customers, just to give you an example of the scale and time that we've been doing this with clients across lots of different cyber controls.
Yeah, it's that experience and bringing that kind of real world knowledge to customers is certainly valuable. Hopefully Alex, I know Alex can attest to that and has done already. There's another thing, and Alex, you can probably attest to this as well, just around transparency of communication. It's rare. I've been in the industry over 8 years now. It's rare that a project goes without any kind of hiccup, a bump in the road. But the importance of the partnership between the vendor and the integrator, and the willingness to collaborate openly with the customer in order to make sure that the result is achieved is also really important. And yeah, not necessarily worrying about saving face in every scenario and making sure that because like I said, hiccups happen and very few projects go absolutely smoothly from beginning to end. Yeah, I mean, look, we're coming into the last kind of 10 minutes. I'd love to just hear your thoughts, Alex, given some of what we heard from Pete and from Aaron, just about, I guess how any final thoughts on how that all kind of came together for you?
Yeah, so I don't think we would do anything differently. We're incredibly happy with how it's being deployed. We wish we had some of the more internal processes down packed first. Like I said before, our software request, people just installing stuff, and that kind of process was pretty broken, and we didn't realize how broken it was until we got something that actually stopped applications being installed. But outside that, like, we wouldn't really change anything. It's been a great experience. Airlock has been a great product, integrates smoothly with all our other tools and technologies. We do active threat hunting with it as well, so we can look for applications that have been executed when we get certain advisories, etc. So really, it's the visibility and the control has been a humongous risk reducer for us.
Awesome to hear. I know we weren't going to do a Q&A, but there are a couple of questions that have popped up, and Peter, hopefully this one's not going to throw you too much, throw you too off guard. But in terms of one question, you talked about the developer experience, and one of our attendees has asked about, how do you guys handle shared libraries, programs that use .NET frameworks, etc. How are you helping to kind of solve those problems?
So I'm guessing that has come from someone who might be working in government or trying to adhere to the Essential 8, which does call out some of those libraries, drivers, for example, as well. And so those controls or that come into effect are at a certain maturity level in the Essential 8. So there's just very briefly, for those that are unaware, there's a maturity level 0, and then it goes up to 1, 2, 3. At maturity level 3 in particular, they will talk about a few things. They'll talk about obviously having application control on workstations, internet-facing servers, and non-internet-facing servers. But they will also talk about blocking drivers and using Microsoft's recommended block list, etc. We actually are the only product on the market that I'm aware of that actually meets that maturity level 3, so we can handle that sort of driver blocking and allowing the right drivers appropriately as well. And that was definitely a key, I guess, objective of when that maturity level 3 requirement came out, a key objective of the product to make sure we always align with Essential 8 and we can meet that maturity level 3 with Airlock today. I suspect that's where that question has originated, and the answer is yes, there is a feature to enable us to be able to manage that.
Yeah, awesome. There's another interesting question, and we'll make this our last one, just around I guess the rollout process and application, and obviously you go through an audit phase and allowing, or capturing untrusted executions in the environment, adding them to a trusted list. But once you move into enforcement and roll out at a larger scale, Alex, can you share any details on, I guess how you managed those blocked executions? Like what does the business do with those, and how do you respond to untrusted executions in the environment?
Yeah, so post audit, we monitored pretty heavily. Once we moved into enforcement, project's finished, we monitored those blocked executions pretty heavily for, I think it was about a month. We would be in it every day, just like you would in audit mode. Look at the publisher, look to see if it's actually meant to be in an environment, and go through and keep allowing it in. Now we're at a phase where we'll look at it maybe once a week, and if we do, we'll still look for those, again, trusted publishers, trusted software, etc. But for the most part, if no one complains, then it wasn't software that was meant to be executed anyway. If we see a software request come through in the future, we'll allow it. But for the most part, it's been very, very quiet.
Okay, so people are running untrusted software, going, okay, well, I thought I'd see whether I'd run that, but it's obviously not allowed, and I'm not going to make a song and dance to the fact that I'm doing something that I shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah, or you might even find that it's just some of those odd DLLs that a program might run every now and again, but don't impact the product in any way. So again, it's been pretty invisible to the end user as well with those blocks. So yeah, no complaints,
That's
like no
awesome.
business complaints, which is always nice.
Yeah, no, excellent. Look, gents, we're coming to the end of our time. I just wanted to thank you all again. Thank you very much for taking the time out to share this story with the wider audience. Thank you to everyone in our audience who took the time out to spend time with us as well. We hope you learned something. There is, if you want to learn more or read more about the project, we do have some online resources, a video and a written case study as well, which you can access by using the QR code, which should appear on your screen in a moment. There we go. Or you can reach out to your account manager at the missing link and organise a follow-up conversation. We'd be happy to answer any more of your detailed questions in that forum as well. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, and yeah, thanks again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So yeah,
That's been great. Thank you. Just wanted to add, for anyone else who raised a question we didn't get time to cover, we will do our best to try and reach out to you and follow up afterwards as well. Seek you the answers that you need from us. Thank you. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.